residential care. We have such a great team of Christian Science nurses at Olive Glen that are always willing to meet the need. We see qualities of cheerfulness, kindness, dedication, spiritual intuition, and the conviction in the truth being expressed continuously. This past year, we have brought 6 new Christian Science nurses onto our staff, and we are so grateful for that because at this current time there seems to be such an imposition in Christian Science nursing, saying there are not enough Christian Science nurses to meet the need. So we're so grateful for the 6 new Christian Science nurses that have joined us at our Olive Glen family this year. 3 of them have gone through the Leverger Christian Science Nurses Training Program, and in October, 2 more of them will be going through this program also. The Leverger Christian Science Nurses Program is run by Lisa Volnugel, and she isn't actually here with us today, but she will be flying in on Monday and conducting a 1-day seminar at the Claridge House. And if any of you would like to attend, you're more than welcome to come and participate. Let's see. We have a really strong group of mentors at Olive Glen. Denise Borman is our head mentor, and Judith Owino and Sage Brown, Rebecca Smith, and Jane Matson are also mentors. Claridge House has continued to be a blessing to Olive Glen and is located about a quarter of a mile down the street. Claridge House facilitates our Leverger Christian Science Nurses Training Program and also houses the Christian Science nurses that work at Olive Glen. I thought it would be interesting for you to hear how Matthew Ayu became a Christian Science nurse. Matthew, would you like to come up and share with us?
Thank you, Kate, for inviting me to talk to the congregation. Yeah, I got a text from Kate asking me that, would you like to talk at the annual meeting? So I looked at that text and said, maybe I'll listen. I just said I'll listen. I didn't say anything apart from that. And the next day she met me and said, okay, have you made your decision? And I said, yes. And what are you going to talk about? And I said, oh, maybe you'll think of anything. So that's what I'm going to start with. I don't have a topic for what I'm going to discuss. So at the end of the discussion, probably you'll know what the title should be. Because it's all about my story to become a Christian Science nurse. And one of the questions I'm always being asked, if I meet anybody, where are you from? And then the other question, how did you become a Christian Science nurse? So I'm not going to talk about where I'm from, but I'm going to talk about how I became a Christian Science nurse. It was just by coincidence. A relative of mine had a copy of Science and Health. So the title of the book really is, how can this be related to religion? And then he said, oh, this is a new group of religion and they're based in US. And she had a copy of the quarterlies. And from a copy of the quarterlies, the first thing that really encouraged me is when it says, page 2 and page 1 of the quarterly, which said that okay, those pages, which were the areas that really made me focus on this, is that these comprise our sermon. So I'm not going to look at the entire thing or read the entire thing, but these comprise our sermon. And then the other thing is constitute a sermon and divorced from truth, uncontaminated and unfettered by human hypothesis, and divinely authorized. So I said, maybe this is very important because most of the churches around, you have somebody there standing there and saying that, oh, I know better, maybe I'm between you and God, but not giving the chance that, what about your human opinion on this? The other thing is the other page which said, Mary Baker AD founded Christian Science, the first tenets of which is, as adherents of truth, we take the inspired word of the Bible as our sufficient guide to eternal life. That is Science and Health, page 497. And then there's another section which says, whose purpose is healing and saving the world from sin and death. So I said, maybe this is what we need. So he gave me a copy of those, and they were very old copies, because he could not give me the current copy of the quarterly. So whereas they were old, we were studying them, and then we also formed a small group, and we called that the Science and Health Group, because then after a while, I was ready to join the Mother Church. But here the problem was that I was not able to get the application form, because I could only get it from either a society or from a church, which is like 400 miles away. And even if you travel to that, there was no guarantee I was going to get the form. So I just decided to write to the clerk of the Mother Church and ask for an application form. And instead of sending just one, the clerk sent several copies of the application forms, which I shared with whoever needed one. Now the next stage was to get the application form filled out. So I filled out the application form, but I did not have a Christian Science teacher to countersign it, because if it's signed by a member, you need a Christian Science teacher to countersign that. So what I did was I randomly picked a name and address of a Christian Science teacher from a Christian Science journal, and I sent him my duly filled application form together with a detailed letter to introduce myself. So in the letter, I also described myself as a keen and earnest student of Christian Science. I also told him that I had thoroughly studied Christian Science and I was ready for membership in the Mother Church. He did not write back, but he graciously countersigned my application form and forwarded it to the Mother Church. Within 1 month, I was admitted to the membership of the Mother Church and eventually took primary class instructions with a teacher in the United States. I continue to travel to the United States for my association meetings every other year. In the year 2006, my family and I immigrated to the United States, and we lived in San Francisco area until 2017, when we relocated to Sacramento area. I joined Olive Glen Foundation in the maintenance department, as well as driving the Olive Glen bus for activities, including attending Sunday services and Wednesday meetings. So apart from driving the bus, my other duties involved helping the residents to board and unboard the bus, and at times I would support the residents' comfort and harmony in church. So while working at Olive Glen is when I developed the interest to become a Christian Science nurse. So I cherished the idea of supporting more the practice of Christian Science, and as a Christian Science nurse, I shared my interest with the director of Christian Science nursing and the administrator, who encouraged me and asked me to pray and listen for divine guidance. A few days later, as I was maintaining the yard, I decided to read a placard on the southern pathway. It's unfortunate we are not at the tent. I would have shown you what this is. It's just next there. And it reads, "The discoverer of Christian Science finds the path less difficult when she has the high goal always before her thoughts than when she counts her footsteps in endeavoring to reach it. When the destination is desirable, expectation speeds out our progress." So that was very important to me, that I don't need to count my steps, but I just need to look at the destination. Is it desirable? Which I said yes, then maybe there will be progress. So I decided, okay, let's make progress then. So I felt that this was the unfoldment of God's plan, and the message on the placard was speaking to me. I immediately considered learning more regarding Christian Science nursing practice. So that evening, when I went home, I read the section in Science and Health where Mary Baker Eddy talks about qualities that are essential to the nurse and the practice of Christian Science nursing. Some of the qualities are: an ill-tempered, complaining, or deceitful person should not be a nurse. The nurse should be cheerful, orderly, punctual, patient, full of faith, receptive to truth and love. So as I pondered these qualities, I understood the negative qualities, because from there are the negative qualities and the positive qualities, and Miss Eddie had to do both so that you don't say, oh, you didn't say this. Because if it was only the positive, then say, okay, you didn't talk about the negative qualities. So they are both there, what you are not supposed to be and what you're supposed to be. So as I pondered these qualities, I understood the negative qualities described here interfere with being receptive to truth and reflecting divine love. On the other hand, the positive attributes reflect and express principle, life, truth, mind, soul, and spirit. I recognize that to be a Christian nurse, I needed to express godlikeness in thought, word, and deed, and to represent myself with a practice of Christian science nursing that is reflective of a standard of excellence and a character of moral refinement. Other preparations included study thoroughly the letter of science and imbibe the spirit. That's Science and Health, page 495. I also recognize that Christian science nursing requires the skills of ministering to mankind with a demonstrable knowledge of Christian science practice, the understanding and expression of practical wisdom, and the meeting of the high standard of excellence representative of Christian science in taking proper care of the sick. That's the Church Manual, section 31. So after studying thoroughly the letter of science and imbibing the spirit, I began my journey to become a Christian science nurse by accepting a position of a Christian science nurse at Olive Glen Foundation. And in acknowledging that my spiritual growth in the practice of Christian science nursing was dependent in meeting the bylaws. So the bylaws are where you have to have demonstrable knowledge of Christian science, the understanding and expression of practical wisdom, and also being able to take proper care of the sick. So I thought, or I felt like I needed the training to get that, because some of the qualities, you have them. But most of these are more like skills which you need to be trained for. So because of that, I took a Christian science nursing course with an instructor. And I'm very happy and very gracious to Olive Glen and Albert Baker Fund because they funded the training. The training expanded my knowledge of Christian science practice and brought forth the evidence of God shepherding care of his representation. The tools provided and the skills learned have enabled me to provide care that is safe, compassionate, and practical, and that is accompanied by a clear expectancy and readiness to witness healing. I did not learn about procedures, because for the training you might think you will learn about procedures. How, if somebody has a challenge, how are you going to handle that? Those are not what you learn in the training. So I did not learn about procedures linked to challenges, conditions, or care situations, but rather the ideas of care that must be solved from spiritual mindedness, practicality, and that are skillfully carried out to support the patient's demonstrated ability while ministering to his individual needs. The training skills also included the practice of sound judgment, which is integral to a sound practice of Christian science nursing. Now that I'm a Christian science nurse, I have a clear understanding that it's divine love that meets the needs of the individuals. It's not me meeting the needs of the individuals. So my work basically is to maintain the conducive environment that's conducive to healing, and not to be part of, like, I cause the healing. I don't cause the healing. It's the divine love that does that. And that this understanding in individual situations affords receptivity to right ideas for care. God gives you his spiritual ideas, and in turn, they give you daily supplies. And that my role is to maintain an atmosphere conducive to healing in the sick room, and to bear witness to the fact that God is a very present help in trouble. Christian science nursing is an opportunity to serve one another. The Bible gives wonderful examples of God's never-failing love for man, reflected in man's care for one another. Consider, for example, Jesus extending his hand to the sinking Peter. Jesus' instruction on loving one's neighbor, given the story of the Good Samaritan. And the story of the Good Samaritan is this person who helped was on the way. He probably was going to a party because he had wine and he also had some olive oil. But he put that aside to help. There was a priest that just passed by and the Levite just passed by. So sometimes we may say, oh, we don't have the time to do it. But still, your journey is not going to be disturbed. You could still proceed with the journey, but help your fellow man. Another example is Jesus washing his disciples' feet. At the peak of his teaching, Jesus reminded his followers that if you haven't loved and care in practical ways for the one in your midst, you haven't loved him. This love of the Father resulting in love for each other is the basis of Christian sons nursing. Mary Baker Eddy writes, this church is impartial. Its rules apply not only to one member only, but to one and all equally. Of this, I'm sure that each rule and bylaw in this manual will increase the spirituality of him who obeys it, invigorate his capacity to heal the sick, to comfort such as mourn, and to awaken the sinner. To those desiring to become a Christian son's nurse, so I'm now speaking to you, those desiring to become a Christian son's nurse, a wonderful and a fulfilling professions await you. It's a high calling, and remember you are not alone. Mary Baker Eddy writes, rest assured you can never lack God's outstretched arm so long as you are at his service. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Matthew. We're so grateful to have you as part of our team at Olive Glen. Olive Glen isn't just a Christian Science nursing facility, but it's a home and a family to us all. I like to think of our guests as spiritual ideas that are coming to Olive Glen for recognition. We're now going to hear a testimony of gratitude read by Christian Science nurse Mimi Loughran. She's going to be giving a testimony that a resident at Olive Glen gave us to read today.
Can you hear me? Okay. I would like to share part of a letter of gratitude from an Olive Glen resident. She starts, when I first arrived at Olive Glen, I was hoping that I might gain the conviction Jesus had that no matter what good thing we are called upon to do, we can do with God. I have seen that it's all about our relationship to the divine. This is our most important relationship. It's the law of harmony of our being. The more we realize the invariable law of goodness, love that is within us, the more we recognize it. There is nothing greater than love. I would like to express gratitude to Olive Glen and for Olive Glen. It has been my place of resurrection. Resurrection or spiritualization of thought, as Mrs. Eddy shares in our textbook. Quote, the material belief yielding to spiritual understanding, unquote. I've learned that love alone is life. Also from Mrs. Eddy. I would specifically like to thank the Olive Glen administration for giving me a home conducive to prayer, study, and healing. With much love for each of you, Lorna.
Thank you, Mimi. This past year, we've continued to provide outpatient Christian Science nursing care. Whether you need help with mobility, nourishment, cleansing and covering, we want you to know that we are here for you, to support you and meet your needs. There is no need too big or too small. We now have a unique and fun outpatient story to tell you about a Christian Science dog Kirsten, would you like to come up and share that?
When Kate asked if I'd be willing to share one of the testimonies, I said, well, of course I will. Well, when I opened it and saw what the healing was about, it just made my heart soar, because I have a sweet dog that's out in the car, and he nurses me. So, the loved dog receives nursing care as an outpatient at Olive Glen. When my niece arrived for a late Sunday evening dinner, we noticed one of my large dogs had a paw that was bleeding. I placed the dog in her crate, and as my niece checked the dog, she became quite concerned and felt that the dog needed immediate emergency care due to the excessive bleeding, which we were not able to stop. My niece kept saying her paw was sliced and she needed stitches. I immediately called a Christian Science practitioner for healing. As the physical picture was aggressive, and it was apparent that practical care was needed for my dog, I called Olive Glen to see if a Christian Science nurse could help. The Christian Science nurse helped lift my thought away from the physical picture and assured me that practical care was available if I could get my dog to Olive Glen as an outpatient bandaging case. When my niece and I arrived, we were greeted by two loving Christian Science nurses who immediately provided calm, practical care for my dog. As my niece and I held my dog, the Christian Science nurses cleaned the paw, discovered that there was no cut, only a toenail barely attached. They bandaged the paw and helped us out to my car. I called the Christian Science practitioner to let her know the progress and that we still needed help regarding the bleeding. About 45 minutes later, when it was necessary to change the bandage, the bleeding had stopped. The removal of the bandage naturally removed the toenail, and a new bandage was applied. No stitches were needed. In a few days, the bandage was removed. My dog was completely healed and a new nail had grown in place. The Christian Science nurses expressed love, patience, gentleness, wisdom, and had our care needs as their priority. The Christian Science nurse even called me the next day to check on me and my dog. How grateful I am to know that we have Olive Glen here in our community.
Thank you, Kirsten. The healing effects of Christian Science shared ripples out into our non-Christian Science staff. Just recently, a staff member gave me permission to share her healing thoughts with you. Betsy Amnew is now going to share those with you.
Thank you. This is from a staff member. When I come to work at Olive Glen, I look forward to it. I feel the love and peace in the atmosphere. Olive Glen staff have expressed so much patience with me when I have been working things out, and I feel great support when I am here. Since I have been employed by Olive Glen, I have learned to accept God in my life and be still and listen, which was challenging for me before. I have been using the hymns from the Christian Science hymnal whenever I feel overwhelmed, and the hymns calm my thought. I have also been learning to see people as God's children. I look for the beauty and good in everyone. And as a result of this, my relationships have improved, and I am more happy overall.
Thank you, Betsy. And we thought that was special to share with you all because this was coming from a non-Christian scientist that really had a huge transformation this past year, and it was just really beautiful to watch that unfold. So we're going to take 5 5 minutes now to get up and stretch our legs and move around, and then Kerry Jenkins will be giving the talk.